At least 20 EU countries are set to sign a new defence pact Monday morning, later today. It's been promoted by France and Germany. Let's go live to Berlin, and our Europe correspondent Peter Oliver can tell us a bit more about what's on the cards here. Yeah, it's a big deal, this. A lot of signatories. What are the key points here? What's going to happen?
Right, well, this has been put forward by the European Commission, and some are saying it was done so in a slightly underhanded manner. Late on Friday evening, this what's called a Permanent Structured Cooperation, or PESCO agreement, was put forward. Some would say to avoid attention from both NATO and from the European Council. But ministers from proposed member states have started to arrive in Brussels. We're expecting them to be discussing this. But what does PESCO entail? Well, 20 countries are expected to sign up to it. We could see this agreement in place by the end of this year. It's designed, according to its architects, to improve security and also to deepen defence cooperation across the EU. It has been put forward as something of a military Schengen, if you will. It's supposed to allow military hardware and equipment to move across borders of member states without having to go through checkpoints, also to establish a crisis response unit and joint military training. Now, it does come on the back of a lot of discussions that have happened over the past few months about an EU army. In fact, talk of that stepped up following the United Kingdom's decision in 2016 that it wanted to leave the EU. They had been firmly against an EU army. But one particular EU leader that is very much in favour of an EU military is Emmanuel Macron.
We are in need of profound changes. I propose to our counterparts to create a European army, and I open this initiative towards the French army and all militaries coming from all European countries voluntarily. France has to possess a joint intervention force, common defence budget, common doctrine to act.
So the French president on board with an EU army, but when it comes to this military Schengen agreement, or PESCO, there may be a few wrinkles to iron out between two of the major architects. That's France, who want to see a smaller force that fits within France's current military objectives, and also want to see a force that would be able to intervene abroad, whereas Germany, well, they want to see a larger, more inclusive PESCO agreement, critics of which, though, say, well, it could become quite cumbersome and in fact, quite hamper the effectiveness if you allow too many people in. Well, foreign affairs ministers have started arriving in Brussels for talks on this. We're expecting them to sign something throughout Monday. I'll be keeping an eye on it. As soon as any news comes out of Brussels, of course, I'll be bringing it to you here on RT.
All right, we'll wait for that, Peter, for now. Thanks. So, good idea or not, depends how you look at it, I guess. The defence pact's already been touted as a new NATO by some, but critics suspect it'll be a strategic disaster.
I think it's definitely another step in the wrong direction because, of course, there has been coordination among the elements of the European countries for defense purposes, but overall this has all taken place in the context of NATO. And there is no real difference because the policies which have been persuaded in this last period were very much confrontation against Russia, the NATO build-up. So I think it is to be seen in this context, and definitely is not something which should be seen as some kind of separate or whatever, or anti-NATO.
I would not directly see it as aggressive move, but of course I see it quite critical. First of all, Germany with its history should not be more than a defensive military structure, and with this Germany suddenly is also having the possibility to do actively some military action. I think it will help to play always the card good cop and bad cop. The good cop is then the European army and the bad cop is the NATO. So I think they will really work arm in arm.